And how are you going to have the expectation for your child to be disciplined, to eat a certain way when you are not doing it?
Nathalia, welcome to the Strong Female Athlete podcast.
Erica, thank you so much for having me. We've been chatting on social media about, how aligned our thoughts and beliefs around performance, athletic performance, lifestyle, and all of that. So I'm pretty excited to be here.
I am as well. And you're actually a very unique guest, but a very exciting guest. Usually I have like people in female athlete performance, sports scientists, but you are in the fitness space. You work with a lot of older people, but I think this is going to be an episode for the sports parents because a lot of parents ask me about their own health, physical and mental. You're a former Miss Olympia. You've been in the fitness industry for many years. And you're also a sports parent yourself. So I was like,
Yeah.
She is perfect to talk about parent health because it's a busy world out there and there's a lot of excuses people are making. But I really think if the parent can get their health right, then their daughter will be healthy too and have good habits. So I do want to talk about the reel you created. That's kind of how I stumbled upon your content. And it was something along the lines of how kids sports is ruining parent fitness. Can you expand on that?
Oh, I can. How much time have we got? This is like really something that I'm incredibly like passionate about talking for a number of reasons. And I think one other thing that you might not know, my husband was a professional rugby player for 15 years. He represented Ireland. So we do have a lot of perspectives, both of us being former professional athletes. He was in team sports. Mine was more individual. Our daughter is getting into club soccer. So and I work full time. My husband works full time. So we do have a very good perspective. And from being a coach myself, we work with a lot of women who are, who work full time, have very demanding lives and careers, and also have kids involved in sports. And, I can watch parents from being a mom who has friends who are also parents who have kids involved in sports. And I'm a coach who talks with these moms as well. And what I find is that there is a disconnect between what they say and what they do. And I'm not saying this from a place of like almighty position, like, oh my God, you peasants, kind of like that's not the message that I want. But I think that there is a disconnect because what I mean by that is, parents are sitting there and telling their kids to be disciplined, to show up, to practice, to eat X, Y, and Z, to do all these things, to prioritize themselves. Speak up for yourself. If you are there and somebody does something on the field, you need to stand up for yourself, that kind of stuff, and prioritize yourself. But that's not what the parents are doing. They are putting, especially women, I find, they are, cannibalizing their own health and well-being to show up to these 27,000 million practices and enrolling their kids. Like we were actually talking about this yesterday, enrolling their kids in 3 different sports per season, each sport having 2-3 practices. Like, at what point are you able to take care of yourself? And if you are, feeling uncomfortable, I live in Texas, like summers are hot. I know you're in Florida. Summers are hot. And I speak with women who are embarrassed of getting out of their cars or wearing shorts in the middle of the summer to support their children, who have had their kids win championships and they don't have a picture with their kids because they're embarrassed. Is that the kind of message? Because, we can see here and be like, oh, I'm supporting my kid. But are you though? Because even if you're not speaking about your own discomfort, even if you're not speaking about you putting yourself less in the list of priority, that's what your child is watching. Mm-hmm. And how are you going to have the expectation for your child to put themselves first, to be disciplined, to eat a certain way when you are not doing it? So I think the overcommitment in sports for the kids, people go into it thinking that it comes from I want to do everything for my kids, but the best thing that you can do is to be the example. Like, I see this with our children all the time. Like, my daughter will lift weights with me, and she's 7, in the gym. It's like her way, and it's a building block. But she asks all the time, "Why do you go to the gym every day?"
Mm.
And I'm like, "Oh no, because Mama likes to take care of her health." Oh, okay. So she knows that, for certain outcomes, you have to show up consistently. And it is the fundamental value of sports. You cannot win. You cannot get the outcome that you deserve, that you want, without showing up to do the work before that monumental moment, like the end of a championship or whatever that is. And I think that is what is being lost in translation with parents and kids in sports.
Mhm. Yeah, the overscheduling seems to be getting very out of control now. And you mentioned signing up for multiple sports within a season. And we talk about that on here all the time, how for not just the kids' overuse and lack of recovery and potential for burnout, it's harming the parent. And we talk about the kid all the time on this podcast, but I think when we talk about the parent now, they get, oh, this could be eating away at my health too. This could be eating away at my connection with my spouse or with our family. So I guess, how do we navigate all this? Because I think sometimes parents, they feel they have to sign their kid up for everything, whether it's through comparison or FOMO, or they want them to try everything. But I think there comes a point where you have to say no and really think it through. So how do we kind of navigate it, or how do you navigate it with your kids when you see all these other people signing their kids up for everything? Do you get FOMO?
I don't like. Would I like my kids to be involved in more sports? Sure, but like, what is going to be the cost of it? Like, is it going to cost our peace? Is it going to cost our quality of life as a family? Is it going to cost my marriage? Because if I'm not having the time to go on a date night with my husband, because every single second of our weekends is consumed by sports and practices, and I don't have time to ask how my husband's days was because we barely see each other at home. Like, is the cost of a marriage where two people are living as strangers inside the house worth my kid signing up to yet another sport? I don't think it is. And I think it's the thing that we need to start to analyze. And the biggest problem why people cannot get to this conclusion is very few have core values to themselves. And what I mean by that is, most people don't know what is truly important to them. So they start saying yes to everything. And it's like, I like to look at it like the Constitution of the United States, for example. Like, everything that comes after that, you go back to that core value of the Constitution to see if he aligns or doesn't align. If he doesn't align, then it's a no. If he aligns, then okay, we'll see. But I feel like so many people lack core values for themselves because they are over scheduling. And I find that it also becomes a coping mechanism too, because it's easy to say, oh, I can't do it because of my kids' schedule, than to take ownership that you're not doing it whatever is best for you according to your core values. Because at the moment that you remove the kid and the kid's activity out of the equation, you have to take ownership and agency over your choices. So it's a lot easier to blame the kid, blame the sport, blame the universe, blame work, than to take ownership and take agency of what is ultimately under your control, because nothing gets in your schedule without you saying yes to it. You might not want to say yes to it because, like, for example, in a work situation, sometimes you have to go to meetings that you're like, oh my goodness me, like, really, do I have to be here? But it is a choice. And I think the moment that we start to understand that everything is on our schedule because we chose it to be there, because we said yes to it, we start to take control of our schedules.
Now, how old are your kids and what sports are they participating in?
Soccer. My daughter is in soccer. My son as well. my son is not like, we like to keep these sports because my husband was also a professional rugby player for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we do like the idea of group sports. So his is more, for my son, is more like leisure kind of stuff, but we still have to take him to practice because for us is the lessons that sports teach more than, the actual outcome of it. Like you cannot expect to show up and win if you don't practice. I think that is a life lesson that we can learn. But with my daughter, she's much more competitive and she's getting to club soccer now. So it's getting busy.
Yeah, but at least she's not on 5 teams in a season. That's the good news because
Oh,
that is
absolutely not.
happening. Yeah.
Five
Yeah.
teams? Why? Like, but why would you do that? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I want to, like, I'm not going to remove myself from doing things for my kids. I know, I understand that that's the mindset. But at what point do we understand, like, that if you're not taking care of your body, the things that I hear every single day from parents is that they don't want to take photos with their kids. They are embarrassed to go out in shorts with their kids. I have women canceling vacations because they're embarrassed of how they look and how they feel. Are all these sports becoming a distraction from doing the thing that is going to allow you to truly create memories with your children?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I cannot answer that for people, but I do think that it is a conversation that's important. It's important to have.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned a lot of the moms. Are there any comments you're hearing from girl dads or sports dads where they're saying one thing and doing another and they're not really role modeling? Or do they talk about their bodies too or their health?
So I work primarily with women. So I cannot tell about what the girls are doing today. But one thing that I can tell you is that I work with women who are, 70 years old. And whenever I speak with these women that played collegiate, sports or played sports in high school, I always speak with a woman who is 70 years old and she will remember what her dad said to her when she was 6 about her body. And I'm not exaggerating. These women will remember like verbatim. Oh, my dad used to say that I had the thicker like a bigger bones like his side of the family, and that I had to stop eating as much. And I feel like the research is very conclusive as well, on the impact of this kind of language on children. Like incredibly conclusive. It's funny. I was in a networking event last week with a lady who does a lot of the community outreach for a children's hospital nearby. And she was telling me that there are kids as young as 6 years old in inpatient care for eating disorder.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and if you look at some recent research, like this has been, um, you have literature on this since 1970, 1980, and there is this one here. Is it okay if I quote? Because I do
Sure.
think that it is very important. And I can send you the links for the reference. Children between the ages of 6 and 11 have been shown to hold anti-fat attitudes, a preference for thinness, and a fear of becoming fat. In addition, Flannery Schroeder, I can't pronounce it, found children as young as 6 years old to display not only a preference for thinness, but also disordered eating, such as throwing up on purpose after eating, and an understanding of the relationship between eating and weight. Thus, by learning that message, the mothers may be sending their very young children under 6 years old. We may be able to learn how children learn to emulate typically adult stereotypes and beliefs. This is a quote directly from a research paper. So it's not just about what you say, it's how you act. Like your children are watching you hide behind the photos. Your children are watching you, not wanting like to wear shorts outside.
And they're
So
watching you body check in the mirror and maybe kind of criticize yourself. Yeah, kids are really paying attention, aren't they? They're so aware of what their parents are doing. And I've heard from both moms and dads that they want their daughter to be more confident. And they try to hire someone like me. I can help facilitate confidence as a performance and nutrition coach, but if they're spending all those other hours with their parents, I mean, they only see me 2 hours a week, then how much is what I'm doing as a coach really helping if the mom's picking herself apart or the dad's judging the mom or the dad's talking down on the girl? I mean, I don't think we're going to move the needle in confidence there.
Can I quote another study?
Yes, absolutely.
Because it speaks to just that, like my eyeballs were moving if you saw because of that. So here's another one. Within the literature, two main models of maternal influence have been proposed. One postulated mechanism is that mothers may directly influence the development of body image and eating disturbance in their daughter by making explicit negative comments about their daughter's shapes, weight in the form of teasing, criticizing, and encouraging. The second postulated mechanism is that mothers may indirectly influence their children's body image and eating habits by modeling their own negative body image related beliefs and dieting behaviors.
Mhm. Yeah.
This is what the literature says right now. So, I think that there is this which I think is progress. Obviously, I think we're always trying to do better than our parents did. Before it was very common. I'm Latina, so in Latino households, you're either too fat or too skinny. You're never good enough, and there is a free for all commentary about how you look. So obviously, that's not what I'm going to do with my child. But what I find going a step further is that what a lot of parents fail to understand is that it's not just about what you say; it's about what you do. And if you're always, going on a diet and you're always like, oh, I can't eat that because I'm on a diet. It's like the language that you use, the bad food, the good food, that like there is no such thing because I think it's all contextual. Oh, I'm watching what I eat. Oh, I need to get a bit skinnier so I can fit in that dress. So I'm not going to put that bikini on until I lose 10 pounds. Your kids are watching that. So I do think that there needs to be a lot more education. And even going back to the lady that I was speaking about that works in a hospital with children, and that said that there were kids as young as 6 years old in inpatient care for eating disorder. The first thing she's like, the parents is where the changes need to begin. And this is even from a clinical side, somebody who works inside a hospital that has treatment for eating disorders for very young children. So we need to highlight that.
So the first steps for parents would be careful with the language you use and
Yeah.
then role model the behavior you want to see. Now,
Yeah.
we're not expecting parents to be perfect little fairies, but
No.
just doing the best you can and just really being aware of what you're saying and what you're doing. Now, coming back to just the busy schedules, how can parents role model within those schedules? Because some of the biggest excuses I get, oh, well, we don't have time to eat well for our soccer performance, or we don't have time to get to bed at a good time. And it's always this, we're so busy, but I feel if it's important to you and your daughter's health, that's something you prioritize. Would you agree? Or how do you kind of navigate it when you're very busy?
I mean, being busy, like I don't with sports or no sports. I've been a parent for almost 10 years, and I am yet to remember one season that I was like, there is nothing happening, like nothing going. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There is always something. So I think this like delusion that there is going to be this season that nothing is happening and that we're just like sitting around waiting for the perfect time is like literally a delusion. It's like I don't know. It's like waiting for the fairy to come and sprinkle some extra 5 hours in your day, and you're probably going to find something to do with those 5 hours. So it's learning about embracing the business as is, and how can we work with the busyness of life. And what I find with parents a lot of times is that a lot of these parents might have had some maybe they were athletes in high school, maybe they were athletes in college, and they could spend hours in the gym, and that's how they perceive that taking care of their health needs to look like: hours in the gym, eating lettuce and ice cubes, and then being as skinny as possible, and then burning off the calories if you eat a little bit extra. But the thing is that in this season of life right now, that strategy doesn't serve, because if you're already busy, how is it that adding more is going to make sense? It is not. So I think that the first step is to understand that you need to find something that works for the season of life that you're in right now. Like, for example, for context, whenever, for you guys that don't know, I won the biggest bodybuilding competition, which is the Olympia. At the time, my job was to look that way. I work other jobs, but that was like I didn't have kids. My husband and I were dating at the time, but he lived in Ireland because that's where he played rugby. And I lived in Florida. So it was basically just me. Like my life was go to work and train, the end. I owned my schedule to do whatever I wanted. So I could spend 5 hours in the gym if I wanted to. But now I have two kids, and we have no family help because we moved from Ireland to Texas, and it's just my husband and I. That's it. So we have no family help. We own 3 businesses, my husband and I. My husband works full time as a teacher, and he coaches 3 sports. 3. Okay. I couldn't, if I tried, spend even 3 hours in the gym, 2 hours in the gym. Some days I don't know if I can spend an hour in the gym. So it's about learning how to adapt and have an understanding that results might not be as fast as they were then, but they're going to be a lot slower if you don't start. So learning how to adapt for the season of life that you're in right now. Busy is going to happen. And then look at your schedule and see what are the things that are truly a priority to you. Like, do you need, and there comes a time that you need to be selfish and set some type of boundaries. Do you need, in addition to having 27,000 practices per week, also commit to 15 birthday parties on the weekend? I don't know. That's not for me to decide. But is it necessary? Like, do you need to go to the birthday party of the friend, of the neighbor, of the cousin, of the best friend, of your like middle school sweetheart that you haven't like? Oh, but they invited us to the birthday party. Like, I'm very, and this is coming from me, I'm very protective of my boundaries on where I'm going to go and where I'm not going to go. Like, for example, I have a very hard boundary. I don't do 10 o'clock birthday parties on a Saturday. Absolutely. Like, do not invite, I'm not coming. It's my boundary. Why? Because that's normally the time that I go to the gym on a Saturday. However, we have kids' sports now. I can set a hard boundary on my kids' sports because it is important to me. So many times what we have to do is like, we have to look at my daughter's soccer schedule, my son's soccer schedule, and be like, okay, so I might need to wake up a little bit earlier so I can do X. And then there is a gap between her soccer game and his soccer game that we might be able to go to a gym nearby, get a workout in for like 30 minutes, and then take them to there. So it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be linear. But with some level of planning, you can do something, because something is always going to be better than nothing.
Oh, it's so good. And I think that gives just a really realistic picture is you just have to do what works for the season that you're in. And if it is busy, then the reality is you can't go to the gym for a couple hours. Like maybe you do a quick home workout. Now, and I think that's one thing a lot of women especially just don't understand fully is they have to do these long workouts to get results. But like you said, it can be a quick 30 minutes and you're set up for the day. If it's like a good strength session or total body workout, that's so amazing. So I
Yeah.
think that's really good advice. Now, I saw there were some like really good tips as well on your Instagram, like parents waiting at practice instead of sitting in the car scrolling TikTok or posting a reel, maybe walk around the field or do a workout there because your kid's practice is like 2 hours. So
Yeah.
there's your chance, right?
Yeah. And depending on the kid's age as well, see if you can like just drop them off. Is there a gym nearby that
Mm,
you can go to? Then, and that's the thing, like, it's not going to be perfect. Like, for example, let's say that somebody's like, oh my goodness, I only think that I get a great workout if I go to the gym. I get it. But is it realistic for this season of life right now for you to go to the gym for every single workout? Maybe not. So what if, we compromise on, instead of going to the gym 6 days a week, I don't know, Like we do 3 or 4. And then out of the 3 or 4, you do 2 at home. And then your kid has practice 2 times a week. And if there is a gym nearby, you drop the kid off, go to the gym, and then you do a little workout there in the nearby gym. Because what I find is that from a more emotional side, you start to, there is a resentment that it starts to build as well. And I don't care what anybody says, that resentment exists. And I think a lot of parents are embarrassed to acknowledge, and they're like, oh, I don't resent. You do, because if every single time that there is a conversation, your reason as to why you don't feel good in your body is your kid, are you going to tell me that there isn't a sliver of resentment there? Is either a resentment or, can I curse?
Sure.
or is a bullshit excuse?
Yeah.
One or the other. And I think that taking ownership of what you can do, it's going to be the example, and it's going to allow you to show up better for your kids as well.
I do want to expand on that because a lot of the sports parents listening, they want to embark on this workout health journey because they want to lose weight or look good. But what are some other ways that working out as a sports parent really helps just their overall well-being and emotional health beyond aesthetics? Because you used to live in a very aesthetic world. I've been to some of these shows, and it's wild. It's like the wild, wild west, and it's really hard on your body. So what can you share from all that beyond aesthetics?
Like from and I'm not even talking about extremes, because I don't coach people for competitions, because I do think that it is a terrible it's great for the season of life that I was in when I did it, but I think that right now you wouldn't be the example that I would want to set for my child. I wouldn't be willing to, and again, that comes the boundaries and the priorities. Like, could I go back and compete? Sure. But it's not a priority for me right now. Being present with my kids is more important to me. So how can we compromise and meet somewhere in the middle where I still take care of me, but it doesn't require me to be 4 hours in the gym?
So why do you still work out and stay healthy beyond the aesthetics?
Oh my goodness, how much time have we got? Like,
share as much as you want. There's so many benefits.
There is, like, from a career standpoint, okay, there is very hard evidence that women, and like just people in general, but like women that feel better about themselves, it improves how they show up at work. We had a member and again, this is not like advertising my program at all, but this is something that I saw. It wasn't something that a study told me. I saw it. She got a 200% pay increase, 200. And this is a C-suite executive. And whenever I asked her, I was like, what do you think happened? And she's like, I just felt more confident. And I have also spoken with, attorneys who were turning down trial cases and passing it over to their associates because they were embarrassed to stand in court and have people look at them. I have had NASA engineers tell me that the discomfort that they were experiencing in their bodies was holding them back from moving forward in their careers, because they always shied away from raising their hands and giving their input because they didn't want people looking at them. Women, the data suggests that women think about their bodies up to 8 times a day. 8.
Wow.
Okay. So, and the data also suggests that it takes you about, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's about 24, 25 minutes for you to regain concentration after you get distracted by something. So if we are averaging a work day of 8 hours and you're getting distracted 8 times a day, 1 time per hour, you're getting distracted and it's taking you 24 minutes to recoup. You're basically just optimizing half of your workday because you're constantly thinking about how you look. And the moment that you start taking care of your body, I'm not saying that it's completely going to be absent, but if we can reduce that to like 4 times a day, that is progress. So that's one. Women as they age, there is a lot of talk about perimenopause and menopause nowadays, especially with semaglutide, Ozempic, and all of that. These are great. I'm not against them, the semaglutide, but you go that route without the proper lifestyle change, without the strength training. Every time that you go in on a very aggressive diet, you are losing about 25% of the weight that you lose is muscle. Okay. So if you lose 10 pounds in a very aggressive diet, 2.5 pounds comes from muscle. But nobody, whenever you go aggressive on 10 pounds, you regain that in like an eye blink. The moment you stop the diet, you're like, woo, it's a free for all. I can't wait to eat again. So you're regaining all of that, including the 2.5 pounds, but you don't regain that as muscle. You regain that as fat. This is going to have a long-term impact on quality of life because you're eating away the muscle that you're already losing with the aging process that happens, which brings back to the perimenopause. And, the data is still very conflicted as to, is the muscle loss due to aging or is it due to menopause? But we do know for a fact that as we age, we lose muscle mass. The causation of it, I think it's quite it's not really overly relevant for the purpose of this conversation, but we do know that there is a decline in muscle mass. So if you are not eating in a way that supports muscle maintenance, if you're not strength training, if you're not taking care of your health, you might not be here to watch your grandchildren. And if that is not enough incentive, and this is a cause that is very close to my heart because I have watched my own mother not take care of her health, and I don't know if she's going to be here to watch my kids graduate middle school. So I think that it goes beyond the aesthetics. It's the impact that it has on your mental health. We have plenty of data to support, even with postpartum depression, the benefits of exercise on mental health and depression. And again, that is not to say that there aren't other things that are necessary when it comes to that. But this is such a readily available and straightforward way to improve your mental health. Why aren't we utilizing that more? And that mental health, like that mental clarity, is going to allow you to show up better for the people that you love too. So it just becomes a positive snowball effect.
I mean, we could talk about the benefits for hours. And I think you nailed it with the confidence thing. That's usually the first thing I hear girls say, teenagers that I strength train with. They're like, wow, I have so much confidence and I feel I have more energy and I'm just more sure of myself. And it's definitely the same for the moms and dads listening. It's just get started now and you'll start noticing that increase in confidence. But I think sometimes the parents listening, like when we say strength training, they're like, oh, does that mean I have to do a CrossFit class or do Orange Theory? But yeah, can you just explain how people, like everyone starts somewhere? And a lot of the parents listening, they didn't play sports. They have never really done weights before. So maybe we can make it a little bit less scary for them.
Here's the thing. Anything is better than nothing. I don't care what people are doing. I do think that there needs to be intentionality with what you're doing, because what happens a lot of times with parents and with adults, that's like the demographic, is that their confidence with the process, it starts to chirp away because they keep on going for the quick fix or for something that does not serve the ultimate purpose that they have. For example, let's say that their goal is to build lean muscle. And then they start going to yoga. I love that you're doing yoga. I love yoga. I do yoga every single week. But we need to observe the outcome that you're looking for and what that particular activity is going to provide you. So there needs to be an understanding, because what happens is, for example, if I go into yoga with the objective of building lean muscle and, looking super athletic, that is not that's not the activity for that. It's not that yoga sucks. So we need to, and what happens is if you go there and you start to do that and you don't get the outcome that you want, you feel frustrated and you think that there is something wrong with you. But it's not that there is something wrong with you. There is something wrong with the strategy that you're using to get you from A to B. You'd be like saying that, oh, I want to go to Australia. I'm going to drive there. That's not going to work. That's the wrong vehicle to get to where you want to be. You need a boat or you need a plane. The car is not going to get you there. So we need to observe that. So do I like boot camps? I think any activity is great. However, if the goal is more specific with muscle development and things like that, that might not be the best activity for you to rely on for that specific kind of outcome. And I think that understanding that in simplifying things, I feel like a lot of times people are looking for the bells and whistles. And I think that the internet and social media is responsible for that. Always trying to overcomplicate things that don't necessarily need to be complicated. Like, in the nutrient timing, and you have to eat this that is like organic and anti-inflammatory and all the BS. The most anti-inflammatory thing that you can do is to have an anti-inflammatory lifestyle, which is, a diet that is filled with fiber, lean protein. You can have ice cream from time to time. It is about finding that balance where you still have the things that you enjoy and you're able to maintain a body composition that aligns with your ultimate goal of health, but obsessing over specific food items when you are, I don't know, 30 to a BMI of 32, like you can eat all the anti-inflammatory stuff, but your body is in an inflamed state. No amount of freaking ginger that you have is going to be able to solve that until we reduce the adipose tissue.
Oh, we're going to get into all that shortly here. I do want to talk about nutrition because a lot of sports parents will kind of make the excuse, well, we don't really have time to eat healthy as a family. Like my daughter skips breakfast before school because we're in a hurry. And I'm like, she's already in a caloric deficit. She's a young growing teenage athlete. What are you doing? Wake up 15 minutes earlier. Like it's not going to harm anyone. Like it's just sometimes that discipline, it's worth it in the end. It pays dividends. Yes, does it suck at first? But the greater cost is your daughter not being fueled, and then you're not healthy yourself, your family's not healthy. Like, I just think that's a greater cost, but I think it does come back to what you said earlier. It depends what the family values. It comes, what are your values?
And I think that is it really discipline or is it just preparedness?
Right.
Like,
Right.
because even for a healthy, like my kids, and again, I'm not the perfect mom. I'm going to put that out there. I still have a lot, like I'm a work in progress. But in the context of this conversation, my kids have a hot breakfast every single day. They have scrambled eggs or an omelet every single day. It takes me a total of 3 minutes.
Yeah, eggs are so easy.
You see what I'm saying? Or
Yeah.
like, let's say that you don't have the time because you have multiple kids and, whatever. You can make like egg white bites in bulk in a muffin tray and just leave it in the fridge. And then before you leave the house, you give it to your kid and they eat it in the car.
Yep.
It's easier than having a bowl of cereal. You know what I mean? So I think it is about looking for solutions rather than looking for excuses, because we can see here, and that's something that I say, oh, it's easy for you to say. People are always going to, I've lived with this my whole life. It's like, oh, but it's easy for you to say because X, Y, and Z. I'm like, no, it became easy for me to say because we as a family made choices and made decisions that aligned with our ultimate goal. It's not easy. We just prioritize certain things, and that's okay if you don't prioritize that, but don't say that it's easy.
Yeah, I wonder that as well with you because people would probably be like, "Well, you're in the fitness industry." And it's like, "Yeah, but we're still preparing our food and taking the time and like you don't work out with your clients, like you're watching their form. Like it's not like you're working out all the time over here." I think that's another misconception with us trainers is everyone thinks we're always working out. And it's like, "No, we actually are very busy with like computer work and like other things." Like
Oh, like my whole life, like I legit, there are weeks that I get up before my kids get up to work so I can get them ready for school. So I wake up at about 5 o'clock and then I work until, I don't know, like 6:30, 6:40. And then I get their breakfast ready. Then I get myself ready, take them to school. So, and that's another thing as well. I I think it's how you choose to look at things. For example, kids have to be in school, for example, by 7:45. I can, oh my goodness, it sucks, blah, blah, blah. Or I can look at that as a hard boundary that has been created for me that I have to live by. For example, if my kids have to be in school at 7:45, I get myself ready, I drop them off, and I go straight to the gym. I've given myself a very hard schedule by relying on these outside things to hold me accountable. And I find like it's interesting because a lot of times I see women fall off the wagon during the summer because they don't have a lot on their schedule. So being like not being busy almost becomes a big problem because they keep on like procrastinating for, oh, I can do it later. I can do it later. And later never comes. So I think that we can change the perspective and looking at being busy as a superpower rather than, something to, oh, I don't have time for anything and blah, blah, blah. And we have a lot of message on social media right now of people like, oh, not everybody has the same 24 hours. And to an extent, I agree. But ultimately, you still get to choose what you do with the 24 hours that you have.
Mhm. And usually the people that are complaining about they're so busy, it's like, no, you're not busy because I see you scrolling TikTok all the time, or you see these like parent influencers always posting and taking an hour to make a reel. And I'm like, you could have used that time to do something. Like, it's like, pick like what you want to do within that. So I feel like everyone kind of has to look at their schedule like, oh, when can I fit this in?
And the bar is very low. Like, let's say that the expectation is 3 workouts a week for 1 hour. Like, how many hours do you have in a week? You have 168 hours per week.
Mm-hmm.
3 hours per week is what, like 5%, 6%, something like that. Like, are you really telling me that you cannot dedicate 5% of your time to yourself?
3 times a week of an hour workout, that's a great start. I would even say 2 times a week. If you can do that pretty consistently throughout the whole year and that compounds over time, that's incredible. And then maybe the other days you walk the field or do some push-ups against a bench at the field or the park while your kid's out there. So, yeah, there's just ways around it, I think, where we can really make use of our time. But I
Yeah,
I also wanna come back to the health misinformation because I think this is a trap that a lot of parents are falling into.
yeah.
What are some that just, like, drive you up a wall?
Oh my
Like,
God, all of them.
I have a
Eh,
list too because I wanna see if ours are the same, so you can go first.
And I just want to rephrase this with saying that if you're listening to this, like honestly, it is not your fault.
Mhm.
Because it is, and I look at it as a consumer of something. Like I'll see, like for example, like face cream. I love face cream. I love like face treatments and stuff. Like I'll fall to all the BS on social media because I don't know better. You know what I'm saying? So like people are like, oh, this cream is gonna make you look extra. I'm like, ooh, say less. Where do I buy it? Like, take my money. So, and if I'm speaking with a dermatologist, she's gonna look at me, she's like, you just wasted X amount of your money. I was actually talking with Dr. Lauren that we were speaking
Mhm.
about because I had the LED red light thing, and she's like, does that work? And I'm like, I don't know, but if I'm using it, I was told that it causes no harm. So, like you never know what is and what isn't in an area that is not outside of your expertise. But I do think that there are some particular red flags that you can be aware of whenever people are talking about like toxins. Oh, it's toxic, it's toxins, and like, oh, it's chemical. Everything's a chemical. Like air is a chemical. If you're like so concerned about chemical, we better stop breathing and eating and drinking water. So like be very aware of these buzzwords of like chemical, chemical, chemical. And we look at it also on the, for example, artificial sweeteners. Oh my God, artificial sweeteners. Okay, so the person's not gonna have that 1 can of artificial sweetener that is gonna have 0 calories, but oh, hold on, let me have this drink here that has 400 calories
Yeah.
and it serves me nothing. If you're already overweight, which 73% of the US population is either weight or obese or overweight, 73, 72.8 or something like that since the last data. I think that continue to overconsume calories is much more detrimental than to have that one can of soda that has very, like, the evidence supporting the causality of cancer from artificial sweetener is poor at best. So, focusing on the forest rather than focusing on the trees, like the organic friends. That's another thing that I think he has a negative financial impact in a family and very little ROI on that. There is data on that as well. So the organic, the chemical, yeah, I think that these would be the main ones. Any, like, all the diets that have a name and that promises quick results, chances are that, because here's the thing, if you're starting something with a specific deadline, I think we're already starting it incorrectly, because if you're looking at health is for life. Like the end game of being healthy is the coffin. It just is. So if you're always looking, oh, I cannot wait until I stop this diet so I can have X, Y, and Z, you're doing it incorrectly, because it doesn't align with the life that you have. Mm-hmm. So these would be kind of like the main things, like cookie cutter plans, like the quick 4-week challenge. Let's, like, 75 hard. I understand the and I love Andy Frisella. Like, I think he's a solid dude, like him, but the idea of 75 hard, I understand the concept of it. I can, maybe for other areas of life, I don't know that for fitness and long-term health and wellness is the best approach. Mm-hmm. So these would be my main ones.
Yeah, I think the non-toxic life accounts are the ones that really get me, because I don't know if you've been noticing too, but a lot of these influencers that are living this quote unquote non-toxic life, they always post like how sick they are all the time.
Right.
Yeah, they're always like, they always have the flu and a cold or mold toxicity.
Yes.
And Lyme. And I'm like, wait, if what you're preaching
the
is
parasites.
working, parasites. It's like, wait, if what you're preaching is working and all the supplements you are selling and supposedly taking are working, why are you so darn sick all the time? Or you always have a chronic illness like Lyme or mold, like, or heavy metals. And I'm like, what is going on? It's just, it doesn't make any sense. And I think it kind of wraps a bow on top with everything we've been talking about today. It's like, if you're not, like, walking the walk, or you're saying one thing and something else is happening, then it's probably not right. So it drives me up a wall seeing these people.
And I think that is, like, also the advice that lacks context. For example, oh my goodness, you can absolutely not have wine, because if you have wine, you're a piece of shit. Like, and listen, there is evidence that, like, wine, it's not great. Alcohol, not great. Yeah. But let's put this in a context. I'm in a beach celebrating my 10th wedding anniversary with my husband. We're having a great time and we're cheering with a glass of champagne. Is that a bad thing?
Yeah, like once every 10 years or once a year.
Or if we're talking with someone that has a fairly social life and that, part of the job, might be having a cocktail with a client, because it builds the rapport, it builds that relationship. How am I going to be able to tell that person that absolutely not, if it is such a big part? I can educate the person and give them the tools so they can make the educated choice that is best for them. But I think that a lot of fitness professionals are removing people's agency to make decisions of their own. Mm-hmm. Oh, my coach doesn't let me do that. I'm not allowed to do that. I'm like, you're a grown adult. Like, it is not your coach's job to tell you what you can or cannot do. The coach's job is to educate you. That way you can make decisions that are aligned or not aligned with your ultimate goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So and like you said, it's that overall consistency that matters most. Like, one thing from time to time, it's not going to kill you or cause cancer like all these people are saying, or correlating one thing to this other thing. It's too much. So I think that helps the parents kind of sift through. Now, is there any final advice you would give for sports parents and just their overall health to kind of wrap this up?
One thing that I have learned over the years, and this is coming, like, we work with women from all walks of life, but one thing that I understand, I come to realize, is that a lot of the changes that are needed need to start with almost like a little bit of an identity shift, like getting out of the mindset of like all or nothing, the perfectionist mentality. And because if the body changes and the mind doesn't change with that, so you can show up as the best version of yourself for your family, you're going to keep on getting back to square one, and that's what leads to that frustration that I was talking about and the lack of confidence in the process. So just jumping from thing to thing is only going to keep on fueling the frustration that you have. And if you're looking for help and support, I highly recommend looking for help and support from someone who understands your life. And I see, moms of like with a bunch of kids going to a 22-year-old like OnlyFans like chick who has a nice butt, and she's like, she's the perfect person to give me advice. And I'm like, her job is to look hot. You see what I'm saying? And I see this a lot of times. So I think that being a little bit more understanding that there are seasons and seasons, and whoever you choose to guide you in this process, there is no shame in getting help. I think I've been in the fitness space for 20 something years. I have a coach. I'm pretty sure that you probably have some kind of people helping you, and you are an athlete and you are a coach. So I think that there is also the layer of shame of being like, oh, I should know how to do this. But if you've been stuck trying to do this for years and here we are, something has to change. Otherwise, nothing will change.
Yeah, that's really great. And I really think the parents are going to appreciate this episode because we haven't really talked about parent health ever. So if you guys want to leave a comment or ask a question with anything you're struggling with as a busy sports parent, feel free to leave a comment below. I'll also leave Nathalia's contact information, Instagram, all her links in the caption. So please give her a follow. She is absolutely incredible. And if you want her back on, like the video and maybe we'll get her back on. So thank you, Nathalia. I will see everyone next time.